Okay, so Scott, people may know you from your work with Pink Floyd, but you are
Yep.
also deeply involved in the decentralized technology space. So, from
Yeah.
your vantage point, why is decentralized technology so important to the threats to our liberty?
It's freedom, right? Because this, decentralizing everything. I'm a decentralized maxi, first of all. I'm everything I think it's important to be decentralized. Like even our government here in the United States, because we have a federal government and then we've got states. I believe it's important so that we can keep checks and balances. Again, I think one of the biggest threats we have right now is the centralization of a lot of things, currency especially, which is a big push right now. We hear about the central digital currencies, CBDC coins, and them trying to push for that. I just don't. I have. I don't have that much faith in a handful of humans. I like it. I like humans being decentralized in the fact that it allows us to, have more freedom to make choices and move as opposed to having one system. And I also believe the whole concept of decentralization and what's going on, especially in the crypto world, Web3 space, which is really, the real comp with the real talk. What I believe around what Web3 is decentralized web. And then it allows us to have choice, freedom. I can basically join groups, be in groups. If I don't like it, I can leave. The idea of centralized systems really concerns me. And I think we're seeing a big push from that right now. And I believe that we should all fight with every cell of our body to stay decentralized and keep freedom, because I think that's one of the most important things for humanity.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I am very concerned about putting the power in the hands of too few people.
Yeah.
So we're going to change gears here and talk about a very different subject, but it is related. So
Okay, good.
it's the belief of certain people that music,
Mhm.
especially rock music and rap, have been co-opted by dark forces for the purposes of hijacking hearts and minds. What are your thoughts about this?
Uh, I couldn't agree more. The reason I say that is, obviously being in the music business all my life, and it's interesting because I didn't see a lot of things earlier on in my career. I just took them for granted and didn't really notice, kind of symbolism and things that were going on, especially in Hollywood. I mean, look, it's not me. Again, everything I'm doing this. First of all, I just want to say I don't try to talk about stuff from a political point of view. I try to talk about stuff from a humanity point of view. That's all I care about, because I love everyone. I don't care what gender, race, whatever you want to be is fine with me. I just want, this is about humanity. So, it's definitely very interesting. And I talk about this. I think I even might have mentioned this when we talked. I saw this. I saw this interview with us that was being interviewing a Satanist priest, right?
Mhm.
One of the top guys in the movement. He'd been in there for 35, 40 years. He actually left the movement. And when he left, he was going out on the circuit to talk about it, to tell everybody what was going on. He said it just basically got too much for him, too. It was like the whole movement got too far out. And imagine being in that movement for all those years and then getting to the point and saying enough, right? It's too deep.
Yeah.
Um, and he had mentioned, he said, the interviewer asked him, he says, what they say to you when you decided to leave the church and you were going to go out and start talking about it? He says, oh, they all laughed. He says, they all laughed. What do you mean they laughed? He says, yeah. He says, first of all, they said to me, he says, nobody's going to believe you, number one. Number two, we already own Hollywood. We're in your schools, we're in your libraries, we're in your government, we're everywhere already. You just don't know what it is and don't understand it,
Mhm.
right? And when he says everybody thinks, Satanism, they think about, it's not about kids sacrificing animals in the back room and everything, but it's an ideology it is basically this. It's all about me. If
Mhm.
it feels good, do it. And morals are secondary.
Right.
Morals are secondary, right?
Mhm.
Once you start looking at the world from that point of view and you look at what's going on in Hollywood, you look at what's going on in all the movements. I mean, he also described that the first thing that they did, it started with Led Zeppelin with this.
Mhm.
He started to explain this was our first symbol to start moving into the movement, that was kind of becoming mainstream. So they co opted rock and roll and did this. Now, when I go back, and again through the years of all, because I played with all these, big bands, I was invited to so many parties.
Yeah.
You can imagine I saw the scene like crazy, right, from a very high level. And now looking back, you could see how that was being taken over. This sort of, I believe we're in a spiritual war right now in the sense between good and evil, right? We're watching, morals being completely hijacked in
Yeah.
every aspect. Everywhere you're seeing everything is now it's this movement, what I'll call the hate in the name of love, right? It's in other words, it's okay for me to hate because I'm so loving and so caring. And you see that a lot when I look at Facebook and these things. You see the posts that come down and you see these people, it's namaste, freedom, we love, love everybody, forgiveness, kindness. And then a post will go by politically that they don't agree with. And then it's, fuck you, it's like this. And you see that shift
Yeah.
because they're looking at what was being said that they can't even have a conversation anymore about it. They look at it from a sort of a loving, caring place. It's again, it even comes into, I believe, the New Age movement has gotten hijacked. It's everything is around now morals and all this stuff where people are thinking they're more moral than other people, and so they're because of the hate they have for certain people because of how twisted they've become because of the algorithms. Remember, there's a lot going on in the algorithms today. Whoever controls the algorithms controls the people. I mean, we're seeing it, right? These things here in our hands
Yeah.
basically are like little propaganda, programming machines, right? Because you see it enough, you know it enough. We now know the behavioral science. Once you understand behavioral science, you start to understand how you can manipulate and control people's thoughts and whatever. And we're seeing that so wholeheartedly in media today. And you don't have to, it's not me or saying anything. You just look around. Why can't we speak to each other anymore? Why are we having so many problems communicating? And I mean, I'm seeing families breaking up over political stuff. And, growing up, we used to be able to have political conversations. You could be on the right or the left, and we'd get together and hash it out, but nobody would ever leave and we would never take it personal. Now it's like at a point where it's personal. It's like if somebody says something in a post, they get attacked like piranha. It's like it's the strangest thing. And I think the question we got to ask is why is that happening?
Hmm. Hmm.
What is causing that? That was never there before, right? So you start to wonder again, going back to the morals and stuff. You start looking at. I look back at Hollywood and all the things that I'd seen, and I was seeing that sort of takeover of morals and stuff. And especially now, we're starting to see exactly what's going on in Hollywood through all these the Epstein's and now P Diddy and
Yeah.
I mean it's all starting to come out, right, in a sense, which I believe right now we're going through probably one of the. I mean, it's going to be painful, I believe, for a while, but this is probably the great awakening as we've been hearing about
Yeah.
because people are waking up globally. This isn't something that's just happening in the US. It's happening everywhere, right?
Yes.
And the question is what's happening?
Right.
How is it happening? And who's doing this? Or what's doing this? Or what's causing it? And that's where we need to step out and free think. Because right now, it's gotten to a point where it's so fascinating to me that I have some really smart friends, people that I look up to that are some of my thought leaders that I've been around for many, many years, some of the smartest people. And it seems like they've lost free thinking. They can't free think anymore. They can't look at something. I mean, we're getting to the point where facts don't matter anymore. You could put facts up and nobody will even look at those facts, right? They'll just say, it's because of my ideology or because of what I believe in. That's all just a lie. And so it's so strange to see how these people are now completely losing the ability to stay, get a rise above the thinking mind and free think across and just look at all the information and try to understand where it's coming from. So, I think that's again a factor of what's going on with the um, what's happening in the algorithms and controlling thought and messages and stuff. And again, you look at it, it's crazy to see how these social networks Social Dilemma. I don't know if you've seen that movie. I'm
Yeah,
sure you
yeah.
have. If anybody out there has not seen Social Dilemma, please go watch that, especially if you have children and stuff, just to understand how this stuff works. Now, I don't necessarily believe that it was malintent in the beginning, but what happens is people learn how to hijack this stuff and then they start controlling, and certain folks get in the way. And, again, the biggest issue we have is the human condition, right? Is that that's the thing that is there. And again, being able to free think and is probably one of the biggest elements right now. But I think as things progress, unfortunately, I feel like it's going to get much worse before it gets better. That tends to wake people up more as they start seeing deterioration of everything around them, their schools, their finances, and things, which we're watching right now. And I think we're about to see some very interesting things over the next 24 months, like we've never seen before. This is one of those moments in time that's been building up. If you really follow what's going on, this has been going on for, this movement that's happening right now has been working towards this for the last, 70 years, right? This is a long-term play.
Well, I want to come back to those 24 months in one moment, but you said something, a lot of very interesting things, but a few I want to comment on real quick. Well, the first one is, yes, I completely agree with you. In fact, that's why I named this entire series The Great Wake Up, because we do need to wake up, need to wake up.
Yeah.
And the next thing I wanted to mention that you said that was so interesting was about how the algorithms control reality. And so if we go back to, let's say, the 1960s or the 1970s and the era of Led Zeppelin, and by the way, I want to preface this by saying I love Led Zeppelin.
Me too. It's one of my favorite bands. Don't get me wrong. I don't think anybody even knew what was happening at the
Yes,
time,
yes, totally.
right? It's not that. It was
Yeah,
innocent.
it was exactly. And so I think this might be the more analog version of the algorithm, if you will. And it seems to me, and I want your opinion on this, that if you were in a position of authority and power and you had this malintent that you're talking about, this Satanist or whoever, and they were going to begin working in a format, obviously they don't have computers in the way we have today. They certainly don't have smartphones. You could begin to encode these messages into music. But more than that, you could begin to shape the culture. And so I watched this video a long time ago where the person was saying, this was back in the 50s or the 60s, that at that time, all the generations listened to pretty much the same music, right? There wasn't the disparity between the various generations. But as we know with the baby boomers, they had that famous motto, don't trust anyone over 30. And it seems to me that was the beginning of the schism. We have this wonderful boomer culture. We have this amazing music, Led Zeppelin, The Doors, Grateful Dead, on, Pink Floyd, all these different like amazing music is coming out, right? But at the same time, there are these encoded messages that are subtly changing the culture, where now the generations don't speak to each other anymore. And now they're pursuing what you were talking earlier about, let's say self-interest. I'll even say selfish self-interest, right? We have
Mhm.
the rise of the New Age movement and things like that. It seems to me that that set the stage. That was the analog version of the algorithm, to use what you were saying. And now we see it play out in the 21st century. Now it's being conducted on our phones through technology. Is this kind of how you're seeing it too? What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You can listen. Once you see it, you cannot not see it. Yeah, I see it everywhere now, right? You can see it. Watch the Grammys. Go look at just go look at TikTok.
Mhm.
Go follow one of these girls, and the next thing the algorithms start pouring this stuff on top of it, right? You can see how they're teaching the concept of be an influencer. That's going to be a great business, right? You can see how the algorithms here in the United States, especially in TikTok, are totally different, right? They're what they're teaching the children here, and this whole self, beauty, this whole thing where they're just completely messing up. But over in China, you look at those algorithms, it's like go to school, learn, be educated. So remember, this is kind of we're in an information, what I call information war. Kind of an idea. I think that's what's going on, and people realize that we don't have to drop bombs anymore. We can control things by using social behavior, behavioral science. I mean, it's so powerful, the concept of behavioral science. I mean, how that works, and it's now known. And that's probably one of the most scary things when you think of AI. because now instead of having somebody having to go in there, you could just get the AI to do it and walk away, and it'll just keep pounding that message over and over and over and over again, and start just formulating and basically, again, when you look at Social Dilemma, the movie, they're tracking every click, what you look at, the time you look at things, and they're shaping information now that basically is tuned to you. Well, if I've got control of what being fed to you in that space, then you can pretty much get people to do whatever you want. We've learned that, right?
Mhm.
We've learned how this works. I mean, it's crazy. Even like the concept of mask, right? I mean, when you saw the mask thing, I mean, if you didn't have to be a rocket scientist, but just a little bit of free thinking to go out and really look in some real research about those to realize that those masks or cloth on your face is not going to stop this,
Yes.
right? And
Right.
so we got to go, why would they be pushing this if we know that there's not, or why are they censoring this information, right? Why are we not hearing the information from the other side about these things? And I just find it so fascinating. It's like, you can look at what I try to listen. I pride myself on being a free thinker because I don't take sides. I just go, what's let me see the information. Now, do I get it right all the time? No, I'm not going to say that I get it right every time either. But at the same time, it's pretty easy to see now if you can step out and make sure you look at all the information in both sides. I mean, it always makes me crazy when I hear people say, "Oh, don't watch that network. That's lies. It's all stuff. I would never watch that. I would never listen to that." That's tells me I better go listen to that.
Right.
Right? That's totally the opposite would be. I'm going to go listen to that because I want to hear what it is. I'm a big boy. I could handle it if it's just information, right? And
Mhm.
so we've now gotten it where people have put people in silos and they're not getting the same information, and you're kind of going, "What's going on?" Right? So we're definitely seeing a big shift in information because now all the people are moving out of the mainstream and they're moving into the alternative networks,
Yeah.
right? And the people are taking back the power of the media, the news,
Right.
everything. It's just like, following any of the things that are going on. You got to follow what's going on at the local level,
Yeah.
right? People that are on the ground. You got to find those people that care about whatever that topic you're going to go, that are in there, and then vet them and see what they've been saying. And now, especially after the last 3, 4 years of all this stuff since COVID, and everybody's been online and we've been following all the different people, it's very easy to see who's credible and who's not credible now, right? They show their faces. And one thing we have learned is where people stand on what side of the fence, right? We've learned that like crazy, right? And we now know that this isn't a left thing or a right thing. This is a group of human thing that
It's
is basically in charge of what's going on and trying to drive an agenda. And the agenda is very clear. I mean, all you got to do is go out there and go look at the World Economic Forum, go read their paper. Very
Mhm.
clear. They're not hiding it. They're telling you exactly where they want us to go. The question is that where you want to go? And is
Yeah.
that good for humanity, right? I mean, it's their thing and they want to push it, but at the same time, the question is it being, is it good for the people, right? For the masses and the people. And so like I said, this is a very interesting time, and everything we're seeing is globally happening. And it's not just here in the United States, but we're seeing this wake up across the world. That's why personally I'm a crypto guy because I love the fact of decentralized crypto. Now, there are centralized cryptos, don't get me wrong, and those can be not so good in places too, but there is a sense of decentralization that's happening in that space that allows us to have choice and be able to have direct to consumer kind of relationship. Taxes and all this stuff. It's crazy. We borrow money, and it was funny. I was just watching the other day. They were asking the Biden, what is it? He's the economic advisor. The person said to him, "I don't. Did you see that?"
I saw it.
Said
Yeah. It's
he
crazy.
said, "If we can print money, then why do we have to? Why do we have to borrow it?"
Yeah, borrow from ourselves, and the guy couldn't explain how the creation of money works, and he said, "Well, this is complicated," and then he said it's simple, and it's clear he has no idea what he's talking
Has
about.
no idea. And the fact is, you ask your scab, say, "Well, if they can print money, why do I have to pay taxes?"
Yeah.
I
Yes.
mean, I just print some more money and pay this stuff off, right? It
Right.
makes no sense. I mean, so what we're seeing is a big shift. This shift that's going to go down is really we're in currency wars,
Mhm.
And that's a big one right now, right? It's like, but what we're seeing is finally we're starting to see, the slide over for big institutions jumping into Bitcoin,
Mhm.
with the ETFs. And now there's some crazy dangers of that too. But at the same time, it looks like we're pulling away from the old systems and starting to move into the new because we're at a point where inflation, I mean, if you think of inflation, I always love this analogy. If 70 years ago you buried $35 in the ground and you buried $35 worth of gold in the ground, and you come today, that $35 you buried is probably worth 2, 3 cents because we've lost 98% of the value through the inflation, and that gold would be way up. So inflation has been happening for a long time. And when you hear them say, oh, we got 2 or 3% right now, inflation, you kind of go, wait a minute, I just went to the store and bought eggs and they're $7.
Right.
Right. I just went to have dinner and it was two of us for dinner. It was $115. And all we had was a margarita, a plate of beans and some tacos. What's the deal? Right.
Yeah.
It's again, it's using psychological, and people are now, once they start to feel it, they're starting to go, wait a minute, something's not right.
Mhm.
And I think that's where we're seeing, like you said, it's the Great Awakening. That's why I love your show, because this is true. This is a humanity wake up call like we've never had before. And there's a lot of things that are going down that are about to happen. And again, with AI, that's the one that's the most frightening from a control point, because you can imagine children waking up and they go to school. And I just saw today a post that they're testing out, I don't know, in Texas or someplace, an AI classroom where the teacher is AI. So
Mhm.
imagine that. You
Yeah.
wake up every morning, the kid gets up and he says, okay, the teacher's on. Hi. Teacher says, this is a car.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a car. This is a
Yeah.
car. I mean, you're a 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid. That's going to be a car to you because you have no state of reference, right?
Right.
So that just tells you that you can basically start manipulating the masses at a level that we can't. So again, AI in the hands of conscious people would be incredible.
Right.
We could be just the greatest thing for humanity if we wanted to train it to do things that were good for helping people and making it happen. So I'm a technologist. I see the power of it and incredible what it could be. But at the same time, with the wrong people, which unfortunately we have humans that are destructive for whatever reason, that have power, and now the power is a guy in his laptop in his room, right, can all of a sudden do massive destruction. It gets a little frightening. So, again, what's happening with AI, most people don't even realize yet what's about to go down
Mhm.
with this, right? It's now just people are starting to go, huh? Wait a minute, I'm starting to lose some work here. What's going on? And we're going to have to go through major changes. That's why for me right now, we're actually launching Space Camp, which stands for Story Plan, Army Conversion, Execution, and it's really the model of how do we address where we're going right now?
Mhm.
How do I build my business to 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 be on the right side of all of this, because people are going to get designed out really quick. It's going to affect every business on the planet and everyone on the planet.
Well, I want to go back to something that you were mentioning earlier. Well, before we go into the stuff that's going to happen in 24 months, I wanted to pick up on something with the AI teacher for just a second here. So I
Yep.
heard this interesting metaphor the other day, and the person was saying, the most a compelling way in which we are slaves to technology already are traffic lights. If you think about it for just a moment, grown men and women get in front of a traffic light, and that decides if you're going to go or if you're not going to go. And I'm sure you've had this situation before where you're just sitting there at a traffic light and no one else is coming, right? And you're like, how long am I going to sit here for? There's
Right.
nobody here. And yet we follow that model. I know that it's largely because we don't want to get a ticket or, have a
In an
cop.
accident or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But at the
sure.
same time, we're just listening to technology. Now, you couple that with what you mentioned with the AI teacher, and what you're saying is a teacher in the AI form that we're holding up as almost as a god can say whatever it is. They can tell you that this pencil is or this pen is a car. They can tell you that the sky is green or whatever, and that begins to become their new reality. And I think that's a very dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
So we were talking about what could happen. You're saying that something big is going to happen in the next 24 months. I don't disagree with you, but I'm curious, what do you think is coming to us?
Here's the biggest issue is, you can look at the jobs that AI is about to take out.
Hmm.
So if you look at globally, how many millions and millions and millions of people that could be out of work in the next 24 months. I
Hmm.
mean, we're already, I'm a technologist, have tech companies. My CTO came out and basically told us in the company that our engineering staff has about 18 months.
Hmm.
And meaning is, he says right now, and he's a big AI expert. I mean, this guy's like one of the top guys in the space, right? Building company very successful in the space. He basically said that, we can now they're already got it where you can set the AI, give it goals, and it will write the code. You
Yeah.
just set the goals and it'll
Yeah.
write it, and then it'll test it and it'll do it, right? And so how many engineers are you going to need when you just say, I need it to do this, and then just let it go and it does that?
Yeah.
Another example is, and I'm again, we use AI all the time because I feel that we have to be in the matrix in order to understand how to get out of the matrix. If you don't understand it, you're done, right?
Yeah.
We have a project called Synthopia, right? And Synthopia, the whole idea of it is it's 100% driven by AI. All the art, everything we do is AI, and the storyline is exactly what I said. In Syntopia, the world, we are basically people that are in the network, in the matrix to get out of it and to try to help people get out of it. Now, we were sitting there and the other day said, well, we've had, we just sold 3 collections out. It's doing incredible and very exciting project. Uh, and we were sitting there and we said, what we should do is we should create a card game, NFT card game based around like Magic the Gathering and a couple of these other card games. So my buddy Chris, I said, okay, hang on. Typed in here, Magic the Gathering, gave it some prompts, hit a button, and I had a full card game with all the rules, with everything you can imagine. It laid out in 2 minutes, which normally, because I come out of the game industry, we used to build games and I was in that whole space, interactive, for years. I had a game company. And that would usually take months of
Mhm.
us sitting around trying to figure out how we're going to go put this together, doing research and all that. AI knocked it out like that. And when you read it, yeah, maybe you needed little tweaks, but for overall, it was there, right? And
Right.
that was like, wait a minute, all those people that I needed before to do that, I don't need. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, we're just at the very, very, very beginning of this. This is just now breaking. Give this 5 years. And then where it gets really crazy is when you start adding quantum computing.
Okay.
That's when it's going to get really nuts because, binary of on and off, yes and
Right.
no.
Mhm.
Now we're going to, instead of it, not just, on, off, it's not just yes, no, we're going to have maybe,
Like a super state, right? It's
like a
it's
super state. And
yeah.
now that's going to change the whole game even more.
Yes.
So this is a very, very interesting time. I cannot suggest more to people. They should definitely need to dive into this stuff and try to understand it.
Mhm.
Try to use it for the best. And we need to be fighters to fight how we're going to basically combat the machine.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of hard to say. I lay around, I think about this a lot. I kind of wonder, if humans will even be around 100 years from now. Like the machine's about smarter now, and it's even getting smarter and smarter. And we are all just feeding it every day, putting
Right.
in the prompts, giving it more knowledge, and it's just scraping all our information. And it's just basically learning and observing to the point where it can do it. They already have these little computers that can basically self-replicate. They have computers that have, 3D printers connected to them, will redo parts and create stuff based on its own knowledge. So we're going down that path, robots that look like humans. Look what's going on now with China, with all these guys having girlfriends that are robots and
Yeah.
stuff. I
Exactly.
mean, this is a crazy, crazy time. And it goes back to consciousness, because really at the highest level, this is a battle between the conscious and the unconscious,
Hmm.
right? And conscious is basically the fact that you can watch thought and watch thinking as opposed to being the thinking and the thing, because the mind is incapable of knowing truth from falsehood. The mind does not know right from wrong. It can't discern that. Easy to prove. If the mind knew what was right and what was wrong, there'd be no war.
Right.
right? The mind would say that's a bad idea to go kill people and blow up things and steal stuff and whatever. It's just, it doesn't. It's really that consciousness. And now you've got these forces of, you know, good and evil, the old demonic forces. Remember, this has been going on for thousands of years, right? This is not like something that just
Yeah.
happened, yesterday. This battle has been going on. And it goes back to, and I wanted to say the one other one that I wanted to bring up. I was fascinated. Laura Logan, who is an incredible, um, she's known as a investigative reporter. She was for years in the trenches during the wars, all that stuff. She's like one of the top in that field. And then she went to CBS, and then she was back at CNN. And well, anyway, she left all that and she's out on her own. And I saw a very interesting post that she put up, and she basically did an interview, and she came on and she said, I was able to have a conversation with the people that sit above the Western central banks.
Mhm, mhm.
Right. That's when you look at it, if you really look at the system, this is the money that's been passed down for hundreds and hundreds of years through, all the Jesuits, through the thing, all that money stuff. When you start looking at the top line of where it comes from, said she was able to have a meeting with those people. And she said, I can't talk about who it is. That was the whole thing. But I got to meet with people that are really sitting, the power structure that sits across.
Mhm.
And she said, she came out of there, and she says, there's only one thing they care about. And she says, they don't care about the money, care less about the money. They don't care about the people, care less about the people. They care about one thing: destroying God. Think about that. And then look at everything that's going on right now, how morals are being pushed down, because it's really, moral compass is such an important part of you're building your family, the thing that you put into your children, kindness, giving, and all of those things, which are morals, which now you're seeing completely being pushed down. You're seeing it. Like, I go to these raves, and it's like, whoa, this stuff is crazy. When I end up these things, the stuff that they start to worship, and I know I'll get beat up for this, but Burning Man to me is like, sorry, everybody. It's like the decline of the Western central civilization. I mean, the morals there have gotten hijacked. I was there this year. I played the dark side. I was the guest to play the dark side of the moon. Incredible show, fantastic thing. But when I looked around, it was just, again, you've got this new age movement, which is supposed to be very spiritual and guiding, which is true, but that's gotten hijacked,
Mhm.
where you're seeing dark forces come into this whole thing. And even just the concept of burning the man
Yes.
is like a very dark
It's like Moloch,
thing.
right? I mean,
Huh?
it's like Moloch, isn't it?
In Moloch, yeah. It's like, so it's crazy. So they've hijacked the morals to make it, like, okay. And if you don't agree, then you're against the morals and what's
Sure.
fair, so we're a very interesting time. There's no question. Very interesting.
So going back to what you said about consciousness for just a moment, and I
Sure.
completely agree with you, it's all about consciousness. If we think about that idea for just a moment, we have three types of artificial intelligence: artificial narrow intelligence, ANI, which is what we use now, and
Right.
then there's artificial general intelligence, which many people think we'll never get. And then, of course, there's artificial superintelligence, which is, let's say, an IQ of 10,000, whatever, something we can't even comprehend. In that example that you mentioned earlier about creating that game, that Magic the Gathering game, and how well it did it, I've seen these prompts that almost spit out information like that. And ask it to write you a paper. I mean, it's faster than most people can even imagine how fast this is going. And so, going back to AGI for just a moment, I've heard from many people over the years that they think that the current technology that we have is actually about 100 to 500 years behind with the people, the ones you're talking about, they're above the Western central banks. The real technology, what they have, is far more advanced. And now you're talking about quantum computing. Is it possible in your mind that we already have artificial general intelligence, maybe even artificial superintelligence? Because in order to create something that's that powerful, where you put in a few prompts here or there to create Magic the Gathering, and boom, it has something that's already laid out there, it seems to me that we are dealing with a force, something extremely powerful that's beyond what we understand our current capabilities to be. What are
Yeah,
your
well, here again, if you go down, if we look at it at the deepest level, we're just everything's just energy, right? At the quantum level, it's just energy. We're just energy. We're basically just a note, right? That's why music and everything has such a effect, I believe, on us. Maybe consciousness is just unfolding into a new form, right? And maybe humans are the was a bypass period, no different than some of the other civilizations having, and machines are going to be the new is going to be the new consciousness, right? I mean, who knows, right? I don't know. I just know that I truly believe that humans, as far as intelligence, these machines are going to be far more intelligent very quickly because it's basically we're feeding all of our information into that system every day. They're even hiring people like real estate people to be putting in all the prompts and stuff. And those real estate agents are going to go away because now everything's going to be you'll be able to get everything. Lawyers, I mean,
mm,
right now we write contracts. We can just go and give me a freaking, non-disclosure. Give me a freaking thing. Boom, it pops it out for you. I don't need to go to any of these things. I could just knock out a contract in a couple minutes, and they're pretty darn good, right? So we're seeing that the knowledge is getting in these machines. It's getting there, and who know? What you're saying. It doesn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if there wasn't, because listen, it's getting so advanced so quickly right now. And again, over the next 2 years, I think we're going to see a massive shift,
yeah.
and I think people are going to go, huh? I mean, look at even just the fact of using these kiosks to go to the market, and you know checking in at the airports now. I mean, I hate those machines.
Yeah.
I hate them. I want to
Facial
talk to somebody.
the
The
facial
key
recognition machines as well.
facial recognition and all of that stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, so we're what is it? Heard someplace like we're like filmed on an average like 12 to 20 times a day.
Yeah.
Whether just driving in your car down the
Yeah.
streets, going to the bank, going into the store, running around, you're just constantly being tracked,
Yes.
right? And so that's going to change the game. And then now with AI, with all this again, the deep fakes, how are you going to know what's real, what's not real?
Mm.
Now, maybe there's AI that combats AI, right? That's the next thing is maybe there's AI that checks AI, and it becomes that kind of a battle, right? Maybe the conscious people come up and consciousness takes a hold of it in some way. I don't know. All I know is it's going to get crazy.
Well, I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to go back to the entertainment field, which is, of course, your forte, and
Sure.
music in general, and just kind of pose this question to you. Why is it that entertainment, especially music and movies, why is it such a powerful force for control and for leading humanity down the path? All the things that we've talked about today, why has it been so powerful in doing,
Well,
say, the bidding of,
people love to be entertained, and music is so powerful. Listen, it's the universal language. It can talk to anybody, right? And then you look at the lyrics at some of these songs and you're like, what are they doing? What is going on here? Why would you want to be saying that kind of stuff and then getting protected, right? So I think what's happening, remember, power and money corrupts.
Mhm.
And you can see that, now again, I'm in Hollywood, and it's pretty corrupt now. I mean, in the sense, that's why I like Web3 so much, because it puts the power back in the hands of the people to basically build their own business and control based on their own direct to consumer models. NFTs to me are the most important thing to come along ever. Most people don't understand what they are, so they think it's a JPEG of an ape, right? And that's not what an NFT is, right? So once they grasp the power of that and how everything is going to get tokenized, that changes the game for businesses, for us to build our own businesses and build a direct to business where I don't need Hollywood or I don't need labels. Because again, remember, they have agendas, they're moving their agenda. It's very clear now, their agenda. I mean, you see some of these artists that come in. Katy Perry was wonderfully wholesome, incredible when she came in. And now you look at what's going on and the symbolism and the things that you see in all of her music, and you're going, well, what's happening there, right? And then you got guys coming out talking about, what's happening in Hollywood and how, you want to be a star, play ball, right? And so, and the record labels, they control all the playlists now. They control the streaming networks. So, but that's why the new model with NFTs and the power of that direct to consumer thing where I can, build something that I can build a circular economy around with my fans and with my people, that changes the game. And they don't like that because it basically bypasses the third party, takes them all out of it. But
Right.
I'm seeing incredible success there. And I'll just real quick on NFTs, because I think this is important for people out there, because I'm sure there's business people running their businesses and everything. I'm just telling you, everybody out there, please go to school, learn about NFTs, why they're important, because at the end of the day, it's really just a contract that is attached to something that has all the rights, the rules, the permissions, and stuff that you can do with that asset. And then that asset has value in a secondary market because you can exchange ownership and anything can be tokenized. But I tell this story because I always tell it because I think it's significant why I believe the whole NFT and this Web3 and everything could be a big part of what helps save humanity, because it's the kind of thing that somebody in a third world country can have a cell phone and create a business.
Mhm.
Without anybody else, they can create something there on their phone and they can create a business where they might not have access to physical things and everything. So it's got incredible powers. But I tell this story. I went to an NFT meetup about, I don't know, man, it might be a year now ago. And this girl gets up and she goes, I'm a photographer. She's 19 years old. I love photography. I shoot photography every day. I want to be the greatest photographer there ever was. She says, I got into NFTs 9 months ago and I'm so happy because I pay all my rent. I pay my payment on my car payment. I live 100% off my NFTs now. And I carved a little piece of the smart contract, which is part of the NFT, the contract that makes it an NFT, to give to my community center. And I've given them 2.5 ETH, which was equal to $10,000 at the time. So you go, how many 19-year-old girls, a
Yeah.
photographer that nobody knows,
Yeah.
can live 100% off of her art and give $10,000 to her community center?
Yeah.
That's a powerful, that's very, very powerful.
Yes.
So my point of that is yeah, it doesn't mean it's easy, but it does mean that it's very viable and it's very possible. And that's why right now, Web3 and everything we're doing is all about educating people on how to take advantage of this to support what they're doing, support their families, and create new business models. Because that's what's great about NFTs. You can build business models on top of them.
I have one final question for you. We've been talking about some things that are scary, some things that are
Yeah.
unprecedented, crazy. Are you hopeful for the future? Why or why not?
Yeah, yeah, because here's the deal. We have one job on this planet to help consciousness unfold. If we all go away, it won't matter. The what who you really are will just continue on. I'm very hopeful. You can't beat the Fibonacci sequence and nature and God and how all that works, whatever you want to call it. Remember, God, the word God is the biggest obstacle to knowing God. So, because once you do that, it creates duality, and that's not, I'm a non dualist. It's really about that. So, I am very hopeful in the sense that it will win in the end because, uh, when you go against nature, which is a lot of things that are kind of going against nature, in the end, nature will take over. So from that point of view, yes, I am very optimistic. I just think it's going to be one of those times where humans get a chance to step up and get out of the matrix and try to figure out how to maneuver this. Although I do think it's going to be very interesting times. I think it's going to get tougher before it gets easier, but it doesn't mean that the ride still can't be great, and it still can't be, and we just have to all adapt to our best and go forward. But I'm hopeful because I'm seeing signs of it globally now. People are waking up because, again, the people that have certain kind of controls over everything, once the people wake up, there's nothing they can do. The
Mhm.
people are more powerful at the end, right? You could, when they say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore, then you can't do anything. So, yeah, I am hopeful. I'm optimistic. That's why it's called the Great Awakening for a reason, right? The Great Awakening, right?
Yeah. So if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to learn more about your work, how can they do so?
Everything I do is all my social is I am Scott Page at whatever I am Scott Page, SCOTTPAGE. And I used to be heavily into social media, but I'm not as social. I'm there now. I lurk a lot, and I usually retweet. I don't usually post my own post. I'll retweet or repost something that people then mostly use it for my business because of my things that I'm doing and stuff. But yeah, you can reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram. Just follow me, send me a message. I talk to everybody. I'm easy to get a hold of, and yeah, that's kind of the thing that I'm working on right now.
Well, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you for this. This was illuminating and it was inspiring. I know we talked about some dark stuff, but I do feel the same way you do. I think this is a great awakening and it's going to lead to positive things. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Hey, Mike, thank you very much. And I'm very excited to be on your show. I'm so glad we met because I think we see the world at the same time. And the more of us that see this, and the more we can kind of help people start to just take a different point of view. We don't want to preach. I'm not preaching to anybody. I'm just saying if you could get your head out of the matrix, put the thing down, be unafraid to go to the other side where you might now hate because of something, don't hate it. Just go in and be unafraid to look at information and try to absorb it and get out there and yeah, look for great opportunities because there's going to be incredible opportunities at the same time.
I agree. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.